Hey there, folks. So, I know I was doing the presidential series where I kind of looked at ranked presidents based on their presidencies, but that series was a flop. Like the most viewed video was like 20 views. So, I'm gonna move on to a different thing, and that's going to be the political compass test. Now, I tend to lean to the left on a lot of issues, but I'll really see. All right. Economic globalization is inevitable. It should serve humanity rather than the interest of transnational corporations. Yes, I would say agree. I think that it should really serve all of the people, just not the wealthiest. I always support my country, whether it was right or wrong. Strongly disagree. I'm proud American, but I don't think slavery was good. I don't think segregation was good. I think it was really bad. So I don't always support my country because it can be wrong. No one chooses their country, so it's foolish to be proud of it. Strongly disagree. I am very proud to be an American. Fortunately, there's this thing where we kind of think that conservatives are patriotic and liberals hate America, but I love my country, and I'm very proud. Even though I didn't choose to be born in America, I'm still very proud that I live in America. Our race has many superior qualities compared with other races. Strongly disagree. I mean, that's straight up racism. You're even a little racist if you pick only disagree. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Okay, so that's not really a political question. I guess that's more to see how I'm thinking. I guess I would agree, maybe. Not always, though. Military action that defies international law is sometimes justified. Disagree. I think that international law is there to really support us, It's not there to, it's really just there to make sure that the rights of people are protected. So, like, for example, the bombing of the boat, or the second strike of that drug boat that was in the news for weeks and for months. I really disagree with that. That really broke international law. And I think that whoever ordered that should be prosecuted for it. There is now a worrying fusion of information and entertainment. I guess I agree. There's a lot of information. I'm not sure really what it's saying, but I'm guessing it's like there's a lot of information that's really just being taken to like political influencers are just using false information to entertain people. I'm guessing that's what it's saying. What is this? Next page. This is the economy. People are ultimately divided more by class than by nationality. I would agree. I think that race can definitely divide people. I think we should really be focusing more on class. Controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment. Disagree. I think unemployment's a lot more important. I still think we should try and control inflation, but inflation really, I'd rather there be inflation than unemployment, because someone like me, I've been growing up in a middle class household, so inflation doesn't really affect me too much. So maybe if it did, I'd have a different viewpoint on it. Because corporations cannot be trusted to voluntarily protect the environment, they require regulation. Strongly agree. I think that companies are not really doing what's best for society and the environment. So I think they should definitely get regulation. or we're just going to kill our environment. From each according to his ability, to each according to this need, is a fundamentally good idea. Just look up what that means, just so that I can... Sorry. Oops. Sorry, guys. People should contribute their best effort and talents to society, and in turn, society should provide them with everything they need to live, like food. Yeah, I think, we should reward hard work. Agree. The freer market, the freer people. Disagree. I think that the free market is really only helps the rich, and I don't think that it really helps other people. I mean, kind of it helps small business, but I think the rich are the only people who really benefit from the free market. It is a sad reflection on our society that something as basic as drinking water is now bottled, branded consumer product. I agree. I mean, I think it's fine, that we are having good access to water, clean water. Land shouldn't be a commodity to be bought and sold. Strongly disagree. I agree, land should be private, or just, I actually do disagree. I don't think land should be, something that we can just, everyone can have. Land should be, or actually, land should be something you can buy and sell, I think. It is regrettable that many personal fortunes are made by people who simply manipulate money and contribute nothing to their society. So I'm guessing this talks about welfare. I would agree. I don't think we should be taking advantage of welfare, though. I do think my favorite Democrat right now, James Tallarico, made a good point that the real welfare queens are the rich because they get tax deductibles for flying in private jets. Protectionism is sometimes necessary to trade. Strongly agree. Definitely. If you're going to phrase it as sometimes, then definitely. I think that protectionism, when we need to protect our workers, is extremely important. Now, of course, what President Trump is doing, I definitely disagree with a lot on. The only social responsibility of a company should be to deliver a profit to its shareholders. Disagree. I think it should be also to make sure that its workers are can actually live and work on a living wage. The rich are too highly taxed. Strongly disagree. The rich really gets out of a lot of the loopholes, and I'm not even saying that we need to tax the rich that much. I think that we should be able to just get rid of these loopholes. But of course, because even Democrats, because their donors are billionaires who don't want to get tax cuts, a lot of these Democratic politicians don't do anything about the loopholes. Those with the ability to pay should have higher standards of medical care. I guess I agree. I mean, I do think healthcare is a right. So, I mean, I'll disagree because I think everyone should have the right to good, accessible healthcare. Government should penalize businesses that mislead the public. Agree. Yeah, I think there's a lot of businesses that are really doing some shady things. Actually, I'll do strongly agree. A genuine free market requires restrictions on the ability of predator multinations to create monopolies. Let me just make sure I understand that. Let me look that up. A genuine free market in practice needs because monopolists. Yeah, I would agree. yeah, I don't think we should be creating monopolies. So I strongly agree. I think monopolies, if we are going to have, I really support small business, but monopolies, yeah, I don't really think we should have, especially multinational, yeah. Social values, oh no. Abortion when a woman's life is not friend should always be illegal. Disagree. I think this is a really touchy issue for a lot of people, so, but I think that, women, bodily autonomy is something that women have a right to. Now, I do think that we should have a ban on late-term abortions. Of course, in exceptions would be when the mother's life is threatened. All authority should be questioned. Strongly agree. Authority should always be questioned. I really think that a way to citizens can really check our government by questioning it. An eye for an eye or tooth for a tooth. I disagree with that. I think that that's kind of barbaric. I mean, I think that some people I do think that there's some crimes that really deserve the death penalty, but overall I think that it should be more focusing on rehabilitation than actual punishment. But of course, there's some people who do not deserve to be on this planet. Taxpayers should not be expected to prop up any theaters or museums that cannot serve a partial basis. I would disagree because I think that the arts is very important. I think it really helps us. Schools should not make classroom attendance compulsory. So this is actually a thing, because I'm a high school student, I live with this every day. If you miss enough classes, you might lose credit. Or if you miss enough days, you might lose credit for a class. That's not fair, especially if someone gets sick. Actually, I think sick is an excused absence. I'm not sure about it, though. But, if you want to take your child to, somebody agree. So if you want to take your child to, Italy or someplace in Europe, as long as, it's, I feel like it's definitely not something that school should be doing because, you never know what people are going through. All states have their rights, but it is better for all of us that different sorts of people should keep to their own kind. What? Strongly disagree. Definitely not, I think that it's important that we all are together, Good parents sometimes have to spank their children. Disagree. I think that violence or any sort of physical punishment is not a really healthy way. I mean, sometimes there's always different times where you might have to do it if it gets really bad, but I don't think it's really healthy. It's natural for all children to keep secrets from parents. Agree. I mean, that's what children do. Possessing marijuana for personal use should not be a criminal offense. Agree. I think marijuana is it's not super dangerous drug. I mean, I know that there's a lot of scientists and doctors who will disagree with me, but I mean, alcohol is more dangerous than marijuana. You don't hear a lot of car crashes from marijuana users as you do from alcohol users. The prime function of schooling should be to equip the future generations to find jobs. Strongly agree. I think that school should really help any sort of kid find a job. I think, especially nowadays where it's kind of hard to find jobs. People with serious inheritable disabilities should not be allowed to reproduce. Oh no, that's Nazi stuff right there. That's what Nazis did. Definitely not. The most important thing for children to learn is to accept discipline. I agree. I think the discipline, in terms of like working out and that sort of stuff, or being very strict on dieting, is really important. And also to support rules. There are no savage and civilized people. There are only different cultures. I disagree. There's some pretty crazy people out there who are definitely not, who are like cannibals. Those who are able to work and refuse the opportunity should not accept society's support. I'm gonna agree with that. I think that if you can work, but you choose not to work. I mean, there's some people that like literally cannot get work because of a disability, or because they just don't have a lot of experience. They don't have a degree or something. But I think if people are just taking advantage of welfare, then it defeats purpose. Welfare should be a hand up, not a handout. When you are troubled, it's better not to think about it, but to keep busy with more cheerful things. Disagree. I think if you are going through a tough time, you should definitely face those feelings instead of bottling them away and trying to be happy, because that does not help. Sometimes it's good to be cheerful, but if you're not really cheerful, it's really not healthy. First generation immigrants can never be fully integrated within their new country. Disagree. I think that immigrants can definitely, learn the country's language. I mean, you don't have to throw away your culture just to integrate. I mean, some don't, but I think you should choose to integrate into your society, into the society that you've moved into. What's good for the most successful corporations is always ultimately good for all of us. Strongly disagree. Corporations support are really corrupt, and they're always supporting politicians, and they're always giving money, which should be illegal. They're always hurting the environment, and they're not really helping humanity. I mean, sometimes they do help humanity, but a lot of times, no. No broadcasting institution, however independent its content, should receive public funding. I don't really have an opinion on this. I guess I'll say agree. I don't really care. Our civil liberties are being excessively curbed in the name of counter-terrorism. Agree. There's things like the Patriot Act that are kind of, crazy, that really allow the government to spy on citizens, and I think that was a really big thing. A significant advantage of a one-party state is that it avoids all the arguments that delay progress in a democratic political system. That's not really, I would agree, that's kind of a thing about one-party states, that it definitely does. I mean, I don't agree with that, but I think if we're just looking at that as a statement, that is a true statement. But I guess if we're looking at it, I actually disagree, because I'm guessing we're looking at it as whether I think it's a good thing. So I would definitely disagree, or strongly disagree. Although the electronic age makes official surveillance easier, only wrongdoers need to be worried. I mean, yeah, I agree. Surveillance, I do disagree, though. Surveillance should not always be, I feel like it can be a little dangerous, especially in places like China that have cameras for, everyone. The death penalty should be an option for the most serious crimes. Agree. Definitely agree. So there's some crimes that are so heinous and brutal that it really deserves the death penalty. In civilized society, one must always have people above to be obeyed and people below to be commanded. I think I'm going to disagree. I think that there should always be, kind of a leader, but I also think that we should all kind of be leaders in our own sense. I think we should not just be the ones who stand away. I mean, that's kind of how human nature is, that some of us are leaders and other people are followers. Actually, so I'll agree with that. Abstract art that doesn't represent anything shouldn't be considered art at all. Disagree. Abstract art, avant-garde, that sort of stuff is fine. It's. I don't really have an opinion on that though. In criminal justice, punishment should be more important than rehabilitation. Disagree. I think rehabilitation is more important. Of course, there's some crimes that do deserve punishment. It is a waste to try to rehabilitate some criminals. Agree. There's a lot of criminals who are just crazy, who don't want to actually be like functioning members of society. So eventually, if someone keeps committing crimes, they should just get punished. No rehabilitation. The business person and the manufacturer are more important than the writer and the artist. I'm going to agree with that. Those people are super important to how our country runs. I mean, the writer and the artist are also important, but it's definitely important to have the humanities and the arts to keep us entertained, but I think the business person, the manufacturer, pretty much really run this society. Mothers may have careers, but their first duty is to be homemakers. Disagree. I don't think, if a woman doesn't want to have children, she shouldn't be required to have children, or she shouldn't be required to not have a career. If a man wants to be a stay-at-home dad, that's fine. Almost all politicians promise economic growth, but we should heed the warnings of climate science that growth is detrimental to our efforts to curb warming. Agree. I think that there's a lot of economic growth that really is not helping the environment. And I think we should be supporting this planet, especially since we're living on it. Okay. Making peace with the establishment is an important aspect of maturity. I disagree. I really don't like the establishment. I think that it really is bad. Part of our politics is that there are people who run it. I think that we should have more populist candidates. Alright, so these are religion. Astrology accurately explains many things. Disagree. Oh my goodness. Astrology is a bunch of baloney. I mean, it's silly. You cannot be moral without being religious. Disagree. I think that, I'm not really a religious person, but I have morals, I have things that I believe are right or wrong. Charity is better than Social Security as a means of helping the generally disadvantaged. Disagree. Charity, because not everyone is charitable. Some people are naturally unlucky. I agree. There are a lot of people who are naturally unlucky, like people with disabilities. I think that that's really a big thing. It's important that my child's schools install religious values. Disagree, because not all people have the same beliefs. That's why I think that we should be fighting against Christian nationalism. Next page, I think it's the last one. Alright, this is looking at sex. Oh boy. Sex outside marriage is immoral. Disagree. Actually, I strongly disagree. I don't really think there's anything wrong with it. I'm not religious, and I'm pretty sure everyone breaks this. Pretty much every single person, even if they're religious, breaks this thing. Or doesn't do this. It's not normal. It's not realistic. A same-sex couple in a stable, loving relationship should not be excluded from the possibility of child adoption. Strongly agree. Gay couples should be allowed to, get to be able to become parents. Pornography depicting consenting adults should be illegal for the adult population. I mean, agree. What people want to do behind closed doors is fine for me, though I do think that kids should not be allowed to see it, because, it's just not good for them. It really hurts their brain. But what goes on in a private bedroom between consenting adults is no business of the state. Strongly agree. That's just not, that should not be something that the government regulates. No one can feel naturally homosexual. What? I don't know what that's really asking me. Scientific supported by mate is that sexual. I'm going to disagree with that just because I feel like it's not a choice. People are born that way. These days, openness about sex has gone too far. Disagree. I think, people should just be allowed to do whatever they want. They shouldn't be allowed or to do whatever they want to do and consenting behind closed doors. All right, let's see where I stand. All right. Starting point. Oops. It's certainly fine for discussing economics, but this day is still widely wrong. Okay. Alright, so here's where So it looks like on the economic scale, I'm more of a libertarian left, it looks like. And then on the social scale, I'm also more to the left. This is very interesting. I'm trying to... How do I... Oh, so your political... So economic left/right. So I'm guessing I'm libertarian when it comes to... I'm guessing I'm more in the libertarian area of things, it looks like, for, economics, but I do lean to the left. So there's my, my political compass. Thanks for watching. If you like this kind of content, please subscribe. Bye.